What is your secret that you can't tell anyone because it will probably ruin your life? I don't give my best at work because I don't care anymore. I used to give them 100% and nobody noticed and only focused on the small mistakes I made. Now I give 40 to 50% and my manager keeps bugging me about why my performance has dropped compared to before. I simply don't care. The salary is fine compared to the country's standard, but in this field of work, it's on the lower end of the chart. I don't care. I'm overworked and underpaid. I find it incredibly difficult to care about absolutely anything. Gotta fake it just enough so that people will interact with me. My brother is the product of a rape. My mom told me. I don't know if she told him. She's passed away now. I found out recently that I was a product of rape. It definitely sucks to have that knowledge. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. Please don't tell him. I found out I had a half-brother from dad, and the only reason I found out about it was because he had leukemia, and they thought I'd be a match for a blood marrow transfusion. After fleeing domestic violence and trying to make a new life, I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. I'm fighting it, but I'm just so tired of life. My last baby turns 18 this week, and I feel like I've done all I'm supposed to. I'm sick of being strong for everyone else when all I want to do is go. I'm just so damn tired. My uncle beat cancer 3 times. When it came around a 4th time, he said, fuck it, lived his best life until he ran out of time. You are entitled to that decision. In high school, I stole an MP3 player off a classmate, went into the locker room during PE and snatched it. I didn't steal it because I wanted it or to sell it. I just did it because she was an awful judgmental queen bee, and I wanted to get back at her. People saw me with it in my hands, so the next day, I was called into the principal's office, steadfastly and self-assuredly denied everything. They looked at my bag, then called my parents who searched my entire room for the stolen MP3 player. They never found it, so I was let go. Still got into a fistfight with the girl later, though, as she knew it was me. To this day, I've never admitted it to anyone. Ever. I was that petty. I still don't feel regret, even though I'm usually empathetic to a fault. She was that awful to others. I recognize it was wrong, though. In any case, the MP3 player was buried in my garden as soon as I got home, and this garden is currently a megastore parking lot. This is the silliest thing. Don't know why I've never admitted to it. I left my job at an electronics manufacturing company in 2002, but they continued paying me my full salary, including all incremental raises and annual bonuses, until they offered me a very generous redundancy package in 2022 due to departmental restructuring, including an $85,000 lump sum contribution to my pension fund. I even got the quarterly magazine and annual Christmas card sent to me. In March of this year, 2023, I got an invite to the 75th anniversary of the company, went along, had a great time at the free bar, and nobody realized I hadn't worked there for over 20 years. You've got to love a good administrative error. I have a bad back, and from time to time it goes into a full spasm. One day I was getting out of bed, and as my foot hit the floor, I went into a full spasm. I have no idea how, but a perfectly formed turd fell out the leg of my shorts and landed on the floor. Due to my spasm, I fell and landed right in the poop. The commotion woke up my GF at the time, and she ran over to check on me. I blamed the dog. I've never actually told anyone this before. My non-biological grandfather sexually abused me. He's in a care home with severe Alzheimer's now. Still processing it all, to be honest. Only my partner knows. Tried to tell my mom, and she acted as if it was a normal thing to have happened to a 5-year-old kid. The story everyone knows is my boyfriend and I voluntarily left our place of work because our relationship went against policy, and we valued our relationship more than our crappy jobs. The truth is, we got caught fucking in my car before work and left in order to avoid repercussions. I've gained over 100 pounds since the start of the pandemic and fallen into the deepest depression I've ever experienced. If you were to see me in person, you wouldn't think I was depressed. I'm very good at masking it. But if you were to come to my home, you'd know. I haven't had anyone in my home in almost 2 years. Right now, I have bags of garbage that stink that I need to take out. I need to vacuum and mop my floors. My bed is broken on one side, so I sleep at a slant. My couch is covered in boxes, bags, and just nonsense. I haven't folded my laundry in ages. My shower door is broken. I'm really struggling, and I don't have anyone. Both my parents live in different parts of the country. I'm an only child. I don't know what I'm going to do. I hid the extent of my alcoholism from everyone since I was 15. I'm now 35 and 8 weeks sober. No one knows I'm sober now, as they've never known I had an alcohol issue. I think I'm not as nice as people believe I am. I am just acting according to social norms, when in reality, everything outside my home makes me feel tired and drained. One of my closest family members offered me sex during one of the most mentally unstable times of his life. I wasn't interested, nothing else happened, and the topic never came up again. One of the main reasons why I haven't brought it up to my family is because his marriage is already unstable, and I don't intend to make it worse. I fall asleep every night in horror because of my former best friend. I haven't talked to her in 3 years because for her 21st birthday, we both got massively blackout drunk and smoked. I have no idea what happened that night, but she's never answered a message I've sent since. I was once at a party for my nephew's birthday and really had to go. I noticed they had a basement bathroom, so while cake was being served, I dropped a deuce that could peel paint. I was able to sneak in and out without anyone noticing. Fast forward to after the party, and my sister-in-law and brother-in-law were complaining about two other family members clogging the upstairs bathroom and stinking up the basement. They complained that the smell lasted for days after that, and it had to be professionally cleaned. To this day, they blame the other couple to the point that they get angry discussing the topic. TLDR, I'm a party pooper. I'm 40, and my parents have no idea that I never actually graduated college. I went for almost 6 years and never felt like I really knew what I was doing. School wasn't necessarily hard for me, but I just couldn't bring myself to focus or be dedicated to it. My parents were super obsessed with the idea that everyone needs a degree to get any decent job, so there was a ton of pressure, and dropping out wasn't an option. So, I graduated in a winter semester and decided not to walk the stage. Since the December ceremony was always pretty small, and I knew they wouldn't think that was weird. This happened to be during the recession in the 2000s, so I had an excuse for not finding a conventionally professional job right after that. Now, I actually have a really good job with a company that focuses on hiring people based on experience, skill, and personality. So, it turns out I didn't even need that degree, but I will never tell my parents the truth. About 11 years ago, I contacted my estranged father. We had become estranged due to the fact he abused my older sister when we were children. We sent some emails back and forth, and I lied that I was doing a college degree and needed help with tuition and costs. He must have sent me about $50K in 3 years. He found out it was a lie, as he emailed the uni I said I went to, asking for a receipt for tax purposes, and I blocked him and never spoke to him again. That $50K was spread between me, my siblings, and my mom when we were in financial difficulties, and I played it off as winning big in an online casino. I don't feel an ounce of guilt, but I'm not sure if my family would understand what I did. The man didn't pay any child support when he and my mother divorced about 12 years before this. So, I feel justified in scamming him. My wife knows, and she's agreed to keep my secret. 5 years before my stepdad died of Alzheimer's and leukemia, I noticed he was very quiet in the evenings when I visited him and my mom. I asked him, "Why don't you want to talk a bit more?" To which he responded, "If I don't say anything, I can't say anything wrong." I took it to mean that he was afraid of conflicts with my mom and said that I would want to hear anything he had to say. After he died, I realized why he said what he said. I was at lunch with them when he tried to ask me something, but put in completely wrong nouns, nonsense choices. And every time he did that, my mom started laughing and said, "Ha ha ha, now you've totally gotten things weird." She didn't know she was being condescending because she didn't know he was getting advanced dementia. None of us knew then. And she just brushed his mistakes off as being silly mistakes. She couldn't know it shamed him so much that he stopped talking since he didn't trust his words anymore, nor his sense of balance. I will never ever explain this to my mom, not even if I am super angry. I would do unretractable damage to my relationship with her. She mourned him deeply. I don't think it would ruin my life currently, but here we go. When I was a kid in elementary, I was molested by one of the tutors at my school and said nothing happened when confronted about it by school officials. I had a lot of problems with learning when I was growing up, so I often needed extra help. The elementary school had people come in as tutors for kids, and we'd all get around an hour once a week to catch up on things we didn't understand in class. My tutor there was this young guy, and at first I thought he was one of the coolest people I could ever meet. He would tell stories about going on cool hiking trips, scuba diving, and even running in a marathon. He'd bring snacks all the time, and once even brought me a diary of a wimpy kid book, and I couldn't help but look up to him. Things got weird after a few weeks, and it started with him becoming super touchy, but I didn't mind. I looked at him like a cool older brother. It eventually got to the point where I knew it wasn't normal, and I began to feel awful when I was around him. He would tell me to give him massages because his body hurt, and my touch would help him. To make everything short and nondescript, I touched places a child definitely should not touch. One day, I got called to the front office and they asked me strange questions regarding his teaching style. I think they noticed I wasn't actually improving in any of my classes. The next day I was called in again, but he was there too. Essentially, they were confronting me about not getting better at reading or basic mathematics. His demeanor changed in this setting. He told them I wasn't trying hard enough and that I might have a disorder like ADHD. I didn't look at him the entire time, and I felt like crying because I was disappointing the adults in my life. They even talked about telling my mom. After he left, I think the counselor noticed how weird I was and asked me if Mr. Tutor treated me badly or did things adults shouldn't do. I lied immediately. Without thought in my head, if I told them, then I'd get in trouble too, or they would have thought I was gay. She took my word, and I left. The next week, when I saw him again, he was an entirely different person. He was much quieter and passive-aggressive. In fact, he pretended he barely knew me when he'd been tutoring me for almost the entire year. After that year, he switched schools, and I never saw him again. No one knows what happened, and I was convinced my family members would call me gay if I told them, or even punish me for letting something like that happen. I didn't have the greatest childhood. We were struggling, and I had no father, so I didn't have the luxury of a decent male figure in my life. I'm currently in therapy, and I'm contemplating telling my therapist because I'm having some issues with my sexuality, and I'm not coping in the safest ways. I also still feel bad because I really did think he was the coolest man I've ever met in my childhood, despite what happened. That's all the stories we have today. If you genuinely liked the stories, take a second to like the video. If you want more Reddit stories, be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and until next time.